Welcome to Pensari Basketball. My name's Robert. We're going to be talking everything Christian Koloko today, the former Arizona Wildcat and the current Raptor rookie that was selected 33rd overall, less than a month removed from his 22nd birthday, and now 3 games into a 5-game summer league down in Vegas. We're going to be talking everything that I've seen from him, from what I like to what I don't like to what I expect this coming year, and whether or not the Raptors should give him a guaranteed contract. Grab some coffee. Let's get to it. So, look, in terms of weaknesses, I can't say there's a lot. I know that people are going to say I'm, maybe being a bit of a homer here because he scored 5 points in each of the last 2 games, but I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What I really like about what the Raptors are doing with Christian Koloko is that his role in Summer League is very similar to the type of role he would have if he were in the Raptors lineup next year, which is rim running, setting picks, occasional post-ups when he has a dire mismatch as a shot blocking big. Everything that he's doing is something that I can actually see him do at the NBA level. Granted, to a slightly less efficient level, but it's not like we're going out there and we're force feeding him like 25, 30 shots a game in order to get him a really big offensive night so that we can feel better about this draft pick. I know that a lot of people use Summer League as an exhibition because, let's be honest, Summer League is a glorified pickup game that is often for fans to get a first glimpse at rookies, right? So you get really excited when Paolo Banchero goes out and scores 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and you're like, I feel so much better about this. I wasn't feeling so great. And maybe if you're a Rocket fan, you don't feel so great because it looks like Jabari Smith can't dribble a basketball. But if you're a Raptor fan, it'd be very easy to look at this and be like, this guy can't score. He can't hold position. He's raw. He's this, he's that. But look, I am looking at this from the perspective of what are you doing on the court in Summer League that you can realistically do in the NBA. In terms of blocking shots, I think Christian Koloko has been absurdly good. There's been a couple of shots where I'm like, was that a block or was that a goaltend? And every time it's been a goaltend for the referees because these referees are auditioning for jobs too. But I guarantee you a couple of those were actually blocks. And here's something really fascinating. Despite playing 15 fewer minutes than Chet Holmgren so far, he's actually averaging more blocks. He's averaging 2.3 blocks per game through the first 3 games, and I believe Chet is averaging 2. So I'm not saying that he's a better shot blocker than Chet Holmgren. I am just saying, however, give credit where credit is due. Christian Koloko has been awesome for the Raptors. So let's talk a little bit about the weaknesses, because there are weaknesses, obviously, with a prospect picked 33rd overall. Even with a prospect picked 3rd overall, there's going to be weaknesses. And the number one weakness for Christian Koloko right now is strength. And it's not just any old strength. It is that good old Scotty Barnes, good old OG Anunoby strength, which is core strength, lower body strength, base strength. Okay? He's having trouble holding his position on the block. He's having trouble with post-ups. He's having trouble, moving guys around. He's getting boxed out. All of this signals to me that he's just a guy with a really high center of gravity, and guys with lower center of gravity, whether they're point guards, shooting guards, just guys who are older, okay, guys who maybe played pro, who are 26, 27 years old, are just able to body him. He's basically a kid, okay? I know he's an older rookie because he's 22 years old, but look at him. He's 7'1", 230, 227, right? That's a really light guy. I think an average playing weight for a guy who's about 7'1" is probably, I want to say, about 250 to 260 pounds. So he's got a long way to go before he's there, if he ever gets there. There's a lot of guys who are wiry strong, like Keon Clark was wiry strong. Not the greatest defender, but in the lower block, he was going to get bodied by Shaq, but there aren't any Shaqs in the NBA left to defend. So really what we need is just for him to get a little bit stronger, and I think that's going to come with age. I think that's going to solve a lot of problems and a lot of touch issues around the basket. I don't necessarily think he has a bad touch around the basket. I just think that he's getting pushed off his spot by 3-4 feet every time he tries for a post-up. I also think that, this is one of those players who's going to get so much better when he plays with better players because he's really smart. So let's talk about the strengths. Number one, can't talk about Christian Koloko without talking about the shot blocking. The shot blocking has been awesome. He times, he tracks, he moves his feet, he tries to keep the ball in bounds. He's not wild with it. I know he's been really foul prone so far, But I think some of those calls were a little bit debatable, to be honest. And I think a lot of it has to do with strength. He's having to push really hard and foul because he can't keep guys off the block, and he's having to use his hands because he can't use his legs. So I think a lot of the issues that you're seeing with Christian Koloko, honestly, if this was NBA 2K and I could just adjust his strength meter from where it's currently at, which is probably like 55 to 75, he would be like one of the best players in Summer League. Just take that one thing and dial it up. And that's what the Raptors are going to have their work cut out for them this year in the 905. And, just working with this guy to functionally make him a stronger athlete in the base, right? It's really why Kenny Lofton has been so good in Summer League. It's why Paolo is so good in Summer League and why Jabari Smith is struggling. Really, when it comes down to this level, if you can push guys around, you can score. Like that's pretty much the issue with Summer League, right? It's like the better athletes, the bigger, stronger guys, the older guys, they're always going to have a huge advantage in Summer League, which is why, you're seeing guys who are in their third, fourth, fifth year of pro basketball just pushing around rookies. It just happens that way every year. Let's talk about something else. I love his stroke. Okay, when he goes to the line, that's a pure stroke. Take it from someone who shot a lot of basketball in my life, and I was a pretty good shooter in my time. I can tell you what a good stroke looks like, and he's got there's no hitch. This isn't like Scotty Barnes, right? Like last year where there's like, okay, we got to work on some stuff here. This is just repetition at this point. His mechanics are solid. For a big, absolutely solid. If you had said that he'd been playing basketball his whole life, that stroke is butter smooth. And I've heard some people say he might be able to transition out to 3-point range. I think he can do it right now. I really do. He even hit a 3 in Summer League. It's absolutely already a part of his game. That pick and pop, trailing above the break 3 is absolutely going to be huge for him. Now, let's talk about something else. He's always in the right spot. I really like that about him. I wouldn't say always, but he's in the spots that he needs to be a lot, okay? Whether we're talking guarding pick and roll, whether we're talking drop coverage, seamlessly switching off, like I think they played zone a couple of times, he just seems to have a really good knack for where to be. And I think that was one of my biggest concerns coming into this, because I didn't always see that from him at Arizona. I didn't always see that from him. He was a pretty smart player, but you never know how guys are going to adjust to the pros. So I was very happy to see him offense, defense, just knowing how to fill lanes, right? He has a better feel for basketball than almost any player on the Raptors right now other than Doughton. Like, he just understands functionally where to be, when to set screens, when to flare, when to cut, when to get out of the way, when to space out, when to cut. He just gets it. And I really appreciate that about him. And I think that's really one of the big reasons why I think that he's going to have so much an easier time playing with better players, because those better players are going to draw all that attention away from him. He's going to be able to slip past, and as we saw with last year with Scotty Barnes, there's a real value to just knowing how to move without the basketball. And this is just a guy who seems to know how to move without the basketball. It's not quite Scotty level, but it's really good for a guy his age who's been playing basketball this long. It's really good. The other thing I want to talk about, and the final thing I want to talk about, is his passing. It's happened a couple of times where, he's thrown a pass and maybe it didn't quite get through, but there was a pass on the short roll, and I think that's called the Draymond pass, right? Where he catches the ball, I believe it was Delano Banton, passed him the ball, and he's just barreling down, and there's this defender who's ready to take a charge, and instead of just barreling into him, he just shuffle passes it off to Rodions Kurucs, and it's this clean pass. And the processing speed required to make a pass like that, I was just salivating at the idea of him being able to do something like that with Scotty and Pascal, so now let me talk about one thing that I didn't talk about, and I can't believe I didn't talk about it, and that was his ability to switch. I can't believe I didn't mention this, because this is easily his greatest strength so far that I have seen, apart from his shot blocking, is his ability to switch. Now, I don't know how much this ability to switch is going to hold up when you start talking about NBA level guards versus Summer League guards, but so far, the hip mobility, the ability to switch directions, the ability to know exactly how much space to give to a perimeter player, some of those late contests, I think it has been really encouraging, and about as well as you could have hoped for something like this to be for him. Like he's not Evan Mobley. I know that. I knew that going in. But the fact that he has been as good at it as he has been it shows A, that he's really committed to it, and B, he actually has a natural knack and skill for this. So I think with some work here, this is a guy who can do a reasonable job switching. And I think that's just something that a lot of scouts had concerns about with him is he just exclusively a drop big? Because if he is a switchable big who can also drop, well, now the Raptors have what I consider a upper first round talent that they've just grabbed at 33. And like, I was abnormally high relative to most people who gave draft grades on the Christian Koloko pick. But now I am, after seeing him even more now against pro athletes, I'm even more encouraged by what I've seen from him. So I think that the Raptors got a really good one. Let me know in the comments below whether you agree, whether, you know, the 5 points every now and again are concerning to you, whether his lack of scoring and you know, maybe his inefficient offense so far have been concerning for you, whether you're excited about his shot blocking. Do you think he's going to get minutes? Let me know in the comments below. So now to the meat and potatoes of the video, which is, do I think that he can actually play in the NBA next year? That will really depend on the strength and conditioning part, right? Because right now, he's having trouble boxing out, which is a no-no for the Raptors. He's having trouble keeping guys off the block, which is going to be a nightmare for him against almost any power forward or center in the NBA. It doesn't need to be Shaq, right? So these things are going to be really difficult for him, just the same way they're going to be really difficult for Chet Holmgren, or any rookie really who's not Kenny Lofton, right? So I think that could be an issue. But in terms of just his skill set, in terms of how smart I think he is, in terms of how much I believe that intelligence plays a part in how quickly you pick things up and how quickly, you know, things absorb and new situations are easily adapted to, I think intelligence is a huge thing. And I think that he's a really smart player from what I've seen. So I actually do believe that the Raptors have a player who can potentially play for them this year in spot minutes, not a huge part of the rotation, but I would like to see him get some of the minutes that were going to Khem Birch, because last year, God knows, we prioritized the development of Delano Banton and Malachi Flynn when there were better players on the team, like Goran Dragic, right? So if we're going to continue doing this thing where we're going to give rookies opportunities, I would like to see Christian Koloko get a serious opportunity starting in training camp, starting in preseason, and then going into the season, and just seeing what he does and whether or not he's making the same mistakes over and over, whether or not some of the strength issues can get better with a few days. Because, you know, Nick Nurse is right. This is someone who is giving your roster something that it didn't have before. So that's been a little wrap up on Christian Koloko, a little initial review on what I've seen in Summer League. Obviously, I don't put a lot of stock into Summer League, but obviously a guy who can switch out the way that he's moving around the court and the way he's reading situations, all of these things do translate to the NBA level. I'm not putting too much stock into whether or not a guy is, you know, grabbing 15 rebounds at this level. Well, obviously you are. I don't care if the guy's getting, you know, 35 points. Obviously you are. You know, I'm just looking for things that actually can translate to the NBA level, and I think a lot of the good parts of Christian Koloko's game actually do translate to the NBA level. So we're on the cusp of 400 subscribers, which is pretty cool. We launched our Cade versus Scotty video yesterday, which has angered the state of Michigan a lot, and I'm finding it hilarious. The comments are really funny. Go check that out if you haven't already. There's a draft grades video in which I talk about Christian Koloko and Ron Harper Jr. and all the other draft picks. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. And, you know, if you haven't hit subscribe, what are you waiting for? Just do it. You know, like, hit subscribe. I think this channel is growing really fast. We're almost at 400 subscribers. We were like barely 200 like last week. So it's growing pretty fast, and I can't wait to get to 1,000 subscribers, because I'm told at that point that we can monetize the channel and run, you know, horrible ads for you to watch. And you can help me do that. You can help me to the tune of $5 for every 1,000 views that I get at some point, and, you know, help pay for League Pass this year, so I can bring you more exciting content. So if you haven't hit subscribe, and thanks for watching.